Hey everybody, what's going on? Hexlex here. I got another Master Duel video for you. And I've got another one of those decks that for those of you who are unfamiliar / uninitiated with it might see this and be like, oh god, what's going on here now? But those are my favorite kind of decks. But this is, for those again who don't know, Formud Skipper Scareclaw Mathmech. I've actually featured this deck before here on the channel, and before I get too much into it, I have to give credit where credit is due. I did not come up with this concept. This concept was actually taken from Noah Beagleman, I think his name. I actually have it pulled up here. Yes, Noah, I think that's how you pronounce this, Noah Beagleman, who played this deck in the YCS earlier this year in London in 2023. This is the Formud Skipper combo deck that he featured there. Now, his version was obviously under the TCG format, and he also played a 60 card variant. So what I kind of did was I just took that combo line and put it into a 40 card Master Duel deck, which is what you are seeing here before you now. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with how this deck works at all, this is at its core a Mathmech deck. You are just going to mostly be ending on the ability to go into a 3-material Superfactorial for the Laplacian that has the Omni-Negate with a Diameter, and yeah, that's pretty much like one of the main combo lines. But this deck can do a lot of different things that regular Mathmech can't. Namely, it has the ability to put out an insane end board if you open with Formud Skipper plus Scareclaw Reich-Heart or Acro, where you end on the Mathmech setup that I mentioned, with also the Gigantic Champion Sargas and the Regulus on your board for an extra Omni-Negate and some more disruption there, as well as the PSY Framelord Lambda with the PSY Framegear Gamma in hand. This combo line also will hand rip your opponent with the PSY Framelord Omega, although to be fair, even the one card combo of Formud Skipper will also hand rip your opponent with PSY Framelord Omega. In this particular deck profile, I'm not going to go too much into the particular combo lines, but I'll try to remember to link my last deck profile for it, because I think that was the one, if I recall correctly, where my first two games, I show off the different combo lines and talk about them in detail. I'm not going to do that as much this time around, because our games here are going to be a bit more like interactive. They're going to be a bit more like irregular as opposed to us just doing the combo line. There will be at least, I think, 1 or 2 games of us just doing like the one card combo line and going off from there. But I wanted to try at least to show off some games here where we have to make some kind of off-the-wall plays, because decks like this, you know, when they do their intended combo line and everything goes right, then obviously you're just like peachy. But sometimes, especially if you have a deck that's a bit of an odd hodgepodge like this one is, it can be a bit weird when you get disrupted to kind of know what to do next. So this deck in particular, while it is very gimmicky, I actually don't think it's that much worse than pure Mathmech. I've also been playing pure Mathmech and been testing that quite a bit for the new format, because I've said this a couple of times now. I think Mathmech's going to be pretty good moving forward. But again, after playing both that regular quote-unquote pure Mathmech and this variant is, again, not that much worse. It does have a higher ceiling in terms of what its combos are able to achieve. Now, this one is a little bit more susceptible to disruption just because it tends to perform more long-form combos, and sometimes, given all the odd things you have to run, our hands are not the most conducive to playing through a lot of disruption, but I think that's a pretty classic trade-off when it comes to variants like this, right? So I guess if you're looking to combo more and have a bit of a higher ceiling, I actually highly recommend trying this variant. This variant does also require you to have some Scareclaw URs, but I actually crafted the 3 Reich-Heart and the Light-Heart and the field spell specifically to play this variant of Mathmech, and I think it was worth it. I am satisfied with that, but in any case, let's go ahead and break this list down card by card, and then we will look at some gameplay here. So we're in 1 PSY Frame Driver, 3 Formud Skipper, 3 Maxx, 2 PSY Framegear Gamma, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 1 Scareclaw Acro, 1 Mathmech Sigma, 1 Mathmech Nabla, 2 Mathmech Diameter, 1 Springans Brothers. We have 3 Scareclaw Reich-Heart, 3 Mathmech Circular, 3 Parallel Exceed, 1 Therion King Regulus, 1 Reinforcement of the Army, 1 1-for-1, 3 PSY Cynet Mining, 1 Mathmech Equation, 1 Pot of Prosperity, 1 Scareclaw Arrival, 1 Primitive Planet Reichphobia. I always used to saying Primeval Planet, no. 2 Called by the Grave, and then 1 Mathmech Superfactorial. That's going to be our main deck. For the extra deck, we're on 1 PSY Framelord Omega, 1 Primathmech Laplacian, 2 Primathmech Alembertain, 1 Springans Merrymaker, 1 Gigantic Champion Sargas, 1 Salamangreat Almiraj, 1 Scareclaw Light-Heart, 1 Cyberse Wicckid, 1 Update Jammer, 1 PSY Framelord Lambda, 1 Splash Mage, 1 Transcode Talker, 1 Decode Talker Heat Soul, and 1 Accesscode Talker. Also, wanted to throw this in real quick at the end here. With the extra deck, if you want some wiggle room in it to play around with some stuff, and I'm thinking about doing this, I'm about to just drop the Cyberse Wicckid and Heat Soul. I've literally never summoned these cards or needed to. They've just been dead weight in the extra deck. So these can absolutely get cut, and I think I will end up cutting these in the future. Transcode, I very, very rarely use, but this actually has come up occasionally, so maybe still keep this one, but yeah, the Cyberse Wicckid and Heat Soul can absolutely be replaced for better stuff. And with Prosperity, I banish for 3, and I always banish the Wicckid, the Heat Soul, and then the Transcode too. So, alright, now that's going to do it for the deck profile. Let's see some gameplay. Our first opponent is going to be on Cash Tierra Punk, which I think is going to be a very good deck moving forward into the new meta. I don't know if it's the best Punk variant yet. I think that both Cash Tierra Punk as well as Assault Synchron and or Bestials with Punk both have their own merits there. So this is a pretty typical one-card combo I'm actually going to show off here. I'm going to be starting with the Formud Skipper going into the Scareclaw Light-Heart. This will trigger both effects. I usually like to chain block in this order, where I'm chain blocking the Formud Skipper effect, unless I already have the Parallel Exceed in hand, then I tend to prefer to chain block the Light-Heart. Although, to be fair, I don't know that grabbing the Parallel Exceed is right with this particular hand, because I actually don't have a way to get another monster on the field to actually do the Link Summon, if that did get negated, the Light-Heart there. But we get to activate Reichphobia, grab the Scareclaw, and then summon the Lambda. This will allow us to go into the Parallel Exceed, which will then be able to get overlaid for the Alembertain. Did I get Acro or Reich-Heart there? I got Reich-Heart, okay. Alright, Circular is going to get activated next. Now, we actually send Nabla and not Sigma off of Circular with our combo line, because our combo line always puts a monster in the extra monster zone. But what we can do is we can use Nabla to sack it for Diameter, and then Synchro for the Omega. This sets up 3 Mathmech monsters in the graveyard, with one of them being Diameter. And it also sets up the turn 1 hand rip, which is very nice. So here it looks like we hit a Foxy Tune. Definitely not a bad hit at all against Punk. They love to open Foxy Tune as an extender. So I'm very glad to have hit this one here. And what I am doing here at the end is actually incorrect. Do not do this. I noticed the Mathmech Equation as well as the Scareclaw Arrival in my hand, and I thought to myself, oh wait, I can actually set up the Therion King Regulus as well as the Sargas here. That's actually good. But what I failed to remember was that, oh, that's actually going to trap one of my Mathmech monsters underneath the Sargas, and now I can't Superfactorial for 3. I have to do it for 2. So don't do what I just did if you find yourself in this situation. I have definitely set up the negate with the Regulus, but as a result I have nullified my Laplacian. But actually, this isn't the worst case scenario here, because even though I only have Diameter and Circular, what I get to do here is I get to use the Superfactorial to go for Alembertain anyway, right? This will set up the negate on my Alembertain, and then I can detach the materials for the Diameter. And now what I get to do is activate Sargas' effect to pop the Unicorn. So I did screw up. I definitely did not play that optimally, but the situation was definitely not unsalvageable. The opponent's Unicorn is going to get to remove the Accesscode Talker, which will make winning this game a fair bit more difficult. And I talked about this before in the profile, where having two... Jesus, I actually talked about this yesterday in the viewer special, which I thought was today or this video, because I recorded it just a little bit ago. But anyway, having that second Accesscode Talker in the Mathmech extra deck might actually be super important moving forward, especially again when you find yourself in situations like this, like we're in here, right? Also, I'm really glad my opponent used my their Omni Negate on the Alembertain here. I was really not trying to deal with that going into my next turn. But yeah, like if we had access to Accesscode here, winning this duel right now would actually not be too much of a problem at all. Without it, we're not going to be able to win this turn. I just can't battle over this Baron without, like, either getting half damage with the Prosperity and or having to activate Circular, which means I can only battle with one monster, which, again, without access to, well, access code, winning this turn, only battling with one monster, not going to be particularly possible. What I will be able to do here, though, is set up a Laplacian, and this is actually kind of the perfect time to Laplacian, because my opponent's got exactly one card on each their hand, field, and, monster, spell, trap, and hand. So I get to just get rid of all of those. I get to actually use Sargas to bounce and then reactivate my Reichphobia for a potential extender for the next turn. So I don't get to really, like, battle here for game. I do get to battle, just not for game. But I do put my opponent in top deck mode, and as you can see, their one top deck does not end up being enough to get them lethal. So, like I said, I wanted to just show some more irregular games here. This one was a little more irregular because well, it wasn't just because I misplayed, it was also the Cash Tierra Unicorn banishing the Accesscode Talker. But it's really easy to see a deck like this one and just think it's kind of like a one-trick pony, and that if it doesn't pull off the combo line, then it's kind of SOL. But, that's honestly what I thought about this deck when I built it and started playing it too. But as I've tested it over multiple seasons now, I find that's not the case. I find that this deck actually can hold its own, I think, a lot better than most people would think. So, yeah, there we go. We have that first duel here. Let's just go ahead and take a look at the next one here. Alright, so for this game, we're going to find ourselves scoring off against Labyrinth. Definitely one of the bigger contenders for the new format, I think. I would definitely expect to see that deck be at least tier 2 moving forward, or at least tier 3 if not tier 2 moving forward. Here the opponent didn't get a particularly strong start off, setting with just a couple of back rows and a monster here. Excuse me. That said though, I am definitely still concerned about what could be face down there. Particularly I'm thinking about Dimensional Barrier. I don't think we have really any way of winning through that card at all. Also, I want to point out that I did get pretty lucky by top decking the Circular here. However, we didn't necessarily, like, we still had potential to have plays even without the Circular. What we would have done without Circular here is normal summon Reich-Heart, activate Reich-Heart, to add Scareclaw Arrival, link away the Reich-Heart into the Tri-Heart. Tri-Heart adds Reichphobia, and then we can activate Reichphobia to add Acro. And then, I mean, from there we have the ability to, like, summon the Acro and also activate the Arrival to get the Reich-Heart back. And so we have Lambda plus the extra material plus the ability to play a Parallel Exceed. So for Update Gem or Access Code. So we still had access to that line. But yeah, top decking Circular here definitely makes things a lot more easy. Well, what it namely allows me to do is just play through Disruption more easily. And in some cases, this deck actually can play through Disruption a little bit more easily. This call by was a misplay here, by the way, because adding the Arrival here does nothing because of the different dimension ground. But, excuse me, in this case what I get to do is, I get to use the Reich-Heart to bait out Disruption from my opponent, which it successfully does. My opponent actually uses the Ash Blossom here. And this is something that I've noticed actually quite a bit playing this deck. A lot of people will just assume you're on Scareclaw, even though you're not making regular Scareclaw plays, like, at all. And I think it mostly comes down to most people don't know how Scareclaw plays, so they see you playing Scareclaw cards, and they're probably just going to assume you're on that. Like, there are a good number of people who will just see you do something like normal summon Reich-Heart and use an Ash Blossom or Imperm against it. And I think if they were a little bit more familiar with the Scareclaw matchup, well, actually, to be fair, I actually don't know if that's the disruption point when you're playing Scareclaw in that matchup, but yeah, in any case, as you can see here, this was a pretty easy win moving forward. I was just going to go into the access code line, using the Alembertain to just grab some extra extenders from my deck. I was probably just going to add the equation, although you could also make an argument for adding the Superfactorial here in case I get out of the blue like Nibiru or something here. which is going to be a little bit less out of the blue moving forward. I'm already noticing a lot of people on ladder, as they're testing for the new format, are starting to play more Nibiru's here. But this deck actually has the ability to play through Nibiru, and... No, sorry. I'm thinking of a game I had with pure Mathmech. I forgot we were still in the Scareclaw variant. This deck has a little bit tougher of a time playing through Nibiru just because of how specific its combo line is. But as we saw here, we definitely still have the ability to play through Disruption if we use our cards wisely to bait it out. Let's go ahead and take a look here, though, at the next duel. Alright, so we're going to be finding ourselves facing off against Labyrinth once again here. I think with the number of people I've been seeing, presumably testing it for next format here in Master 1, I think we expect to see a fair amount of Labyrinth here. As far as just decks in general, I would expect to see a lot of in the new format. Well, obviously we kind of covered this already on our tier list, but as far as like representation versus power, Pure Sprite, for example, the video hasn't come out yet at the time I'm recording this, but I expect there will be a number of people who will disagree with me that Pure Sprite will still be tier 1 moving forward. I think a lot of people will kind of not think Pure Sprite is as good as I think it's going to be. I think it's still going to be tier 1, but the decks I would expect people to flock to in particular are Dragon Link, Labyrinth, and Sword Soul. I think those 3 decks we're going to see a lot of, and I think that they're all good decks, right? I think they're all tier 1 or tier 2 decks in the new meta. But I think people will kind of sleep on Sprite, Branded, and tier variants as a result of them getting hit by the ban list. That's also just naturally what people tend to do, right? When it comes to the ban list, is they'll often gravitate towards the decks that didn't get touched at all because there's less solving to do, right? Especially with Pure Sprite and tier limits, there's quite a bit of work that needs to be done to figure out how this deck is going to play moving forward. But with, again, stuff like Labyrinth here, you don't really have to think about it. Again, I've said this multiple times, but debatably, the third Extrav was not even correct to play in the first place. So a good number of Lab players don't even have to change their deck, but even if you were playing 3 Extrav, you just cut it for like a Prosperity or something if you weren't playing that already. So let's see. Here I am going for the Springans Merrymaker line, but my opponent did use the big welcome to ultimately disrupt that. That actually does not stop my plays altogether, though. And it will... Oh, no, sorry. I thought I was on turn 1 for some reason. No, this is turn 2, and... oh, I remember this game now. Yeah, this was definitely kind of a weird game. I mean, the Circular only allowing 1 monster to battle didn't matter at all there. But I'm gonna have to, like, wait a little bit. Although I will say, this interaction here is very interesting, because at first I was like, oh yes, my opponent cleared before activating the Drag Layer, now I get to Gamma. But there's not like 100% relief just yet, because this Gamma also pitched a Keldo, and I am gonna need this Sigma in order to climb up to Accesscode on the next turn. So I'm either gonna have to top deck another Extender, or just generally try to, like, figure out what I'm gonna do moving forward here. We do have the Circular, though, so we have, like, the possibility. I'm going to start by activating the Sigma here, and fortunately, yes, my opponent does chain the Keldo while I have no monsters on the field, except I forgot the Gamma banishes the driver. I always forget this. And I forgot this mid-game too, not just now, but I did also forget it now. But yeah, I always forget this, that, oh yeah, Gamma banishes driver, which means you can't use it for the second Gamma, which has always really bugged me about that archetype. Like, the inherent anti-synergy there is just like so, but... yeah, unfortunately, I was kind of banking on that second Gamma to carry me through to lethal. Like, if that had worked, if you could actually get the driver back from Banish, that would have been such an easy lethal there. But alas, you know, what can you do? It sucks that we top decked our literal worst possible draw with the second Gamma. I'm trying to think if there would have been a draw. Yeah, a call by. We could have called by. Well, they would have preemptively used it. Oh, but if they shuffle back the Sigma, we can just use the Circular in our hand to send it. So yeah, call by would have been an out. We had outs. We had at least one out, I think. So, let's go ahead and just do it for that duel, but we have at least one more. Are we on game 3? Yes, this is the third game. So we have one more duel to check out. Let's go into it here. Yes, here we go. The third game that we're going to find ourselves, or the third game, the fourth and final game that we're going to find ourselves watching here will be against Cash Tierra. This is more of a pure Cash Tierra build. I noticed it's playing a danger package, which is very interesting. I would not expect to combine those two archetypes, but if it's working for my opponent, you know, definitely props to them there. So here I'm going to start with the Cynet Mining, pitching the driver. Opponent's got a Maxx as soon as we normal summon the Formud Skipper, but the Ash Blossom is going to ensure that we clear the minigame and get to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Good stuff, love to see it. Cynet Mining, pitching the driver in particular, is pretty good, because although you cannot bring the driver back from Banish, you can still bring it back from the graveyard, so not really losing out on anything by having to discard that there. At this point, we're going to be doing pretty typical combo stuff, using the Formud Skipper to reveal the Light-Heart, and then linking into it, adding both the Parallel Exceed as well as the Primitive Planet Reichphobia. Primitive Planet Reichphobia is going to add the Reich-Heart, which will then summon itself and then add the Scareclaw Arrival. This will allow me to link the two into the PSY Framelord Lambda. At that point, I get to then special a Parallel Exceed, which will turn itself to 4, summon another copy, yada yada, and then go into the Alembertain. Here we did open the Therion King Regulus, but we don't really have a convenient way of getting a machine monster into our graveyard outside of just going into the Springans Merrymaker. So I don't think I'm going to be able to set up the Regulus here, but it is worth noting on the off chance we do manage to get a machine into the graveyard there. Alright, Alembertain's bringing back the Nabla, Circular's adding the Superfactorial. This is a very standard one-card combo here. If you don't open any extenders, but you just open Formud Skipper, excuse me, this is something that you can expect to be able to do, which is nice because it's still an extra hand rip, and not just an extra hand rip, but also you get to search for a Gamma while you have Lambda on the field. So it's like, this is why I say I think that this particular variant is actually not that bad as opposed to pure Mathmech. Is like, again, yes, it is more combo intensive and as a result more susceptible to disruption, but even your turn 1 combo is just so much better, and it's a 1-card combo too. So as my opponent moves to battle phase, it's pretty obvious that they're going to try to evenly me here, so I'm going to try to use the Laplacian to snipe the evenly before the end of the battle phase. But even if we don't manage to, that's still fine because the Diameter gives the Laplacian the built-in Omni, which will allow me to negate the evenly. So now my opponent only has 2 cards moving forward, and keep in mind that I do still have the Gamma in hand. I will say this here in particular, using the Gamma against the Unicorn here was correct, but I think it's still a little bit risky because it's not hard for my opponent to just slam a Fenrir as their last card. But even if they do that, like they Fenrir add Reich-Heart and then go for 1 rank 7, and the thing is, like, Cash Tierra doesn't really do a lot if it goes for 1 rank 7, right? Like, yeah, they can go for the Shangri-Era and start summoning during their standby phase, but I still have a lot of cards in hand and a lot of ability to come back. But here with the Gamma, I'm just gonna, like I said, pop and destroy the Unicorn, negate and destroy the Unicorn rather, and my opponent does not end up having that follow-up there, and as a result, they concede. So there we have it. There are those games with Scareclaw Mathmech. Definitely expect to see the pure Mathmech variant here very soon at the top of the new season. That's going to be the first deck that I go into because I'm very eager to see just how well it does in the new meta. But that's going to go ahead and do it for this one. Thank you for watching these games. Let's move now to our outro. Alright everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the very end of the video like this. That means a whole lot to me. Not just personally, but it's also a great way of supporting the channel as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other means, you can of course feel free to comment and or subscribe right here on YouTube. I'm always looking to the comments section. You guys leave some pretty awesome feedback as far as like constructive criticism goes when it comes to deck building, gameplay, channel content, all that stuff. So feel free to leave your opinion down there. I will be sure to take a look at that there. And then subscribing is going to be the best way to get notifications of when these videos drop. That does happen every day, by the way, so if you're looking for daily Master Duel content, you've come to the right place. And there are more places where you can get some daily Master Duel content. If you check out the description below, follow the top link over to my Patreon page. There for just $5 a month, which is as much as you pay for a booster pack. You'll find a lot more value than a pack full of filler over there. We've got some previews for content upcoming here on the channel. We've got some exclusive games that are only posted over on Patreon over there. We've got some Q&As, and then you can also have your name featured in this lovely credit sequence where I thank all of the people who are helping contribute over there on Patreon. It's a huge support to the channel, and it really means a lot as well. So thank you everyone who is donating that is featured here on screen. And again, you know, it's not just a pure donation, you do get some more daily Master Duel content over there just for being a part of the Patreon. But I think that's about all the time that I have for today's video. Once again, I just want to thank you so very much for sticking all the way to the end of the video. Again, it just means a lot, as I do put a decent amount of work into getting these videos out every single day. But that's about all the time that I've got for now, so without further ado, this is Xlex. I'm signing out, and I hope you have a fantastic day.